Are you giving me an excuse to talk about my corn stove? You're probably gonna regret this because I love talking about this thing. And it's honestly not really that interesting, but I fucking love the thing. So here in the great state of Minnesota, you wouldn't know it by looking outside right now, but it gets cold here a lot for long periods of time. So we spend like half the year having to like heat stuff. And we get really into it. If you ever hang out with a Minnesotan for an extended period of time, you're gonna talk about the weather. You're gonna drive by a driveway and they're gonna say, man, I'd hate to plow that in the winter. And you are inevitably going to hear their opinions on what is the best way to heat your house and why. Now, the vast majority of new houses are heated by natural gas if you're lucky enough to be hooked up to city gas, or propane if you're not. If you have an old house like mine that hasn't had the heating system updated since the Santa Maria sailed the sea, you may end up heating with an old oil burning furnace like mine, or even worse, an old coal furnace that's been converted to oil, or maybe still coal, but you don't see many of those around here. But any self-respecting Midwesterner will tell you that you can never have too many heat sources in a house. And if you don't have at least two, we're gonna assume you're from Texas and your backup plan if your furnace breaks is FEMA. But when it comes to what those best heating options are, that's where the great Midwest debate kicks off. Propane and fuel oil, you never know what the prices are gonna be. They bounce all over. Nobody likes that, but they are the most convenient heat sources. Heat pumps aren't bad, but air source heat pumps can't be relied on when the temps get too cold, and ground source heat pumps are expensive. So wood stoves are always a popular option. They don't require any electricity. If you have a place to get free or cheap wood, it can be the cheapest way to heat your house, and they have a nice ambiance. And I have one, and I love it, but cutting and splitting wood is a lot of work. Wood stoves require constant babysitting, needing to be stoked up all the time and cleaned out every day, and there's an inherent fire risk that comes along with them. They also make a mess inside your house, bugs and bark and ash. So for me, wood's just a supplemental heat source. If you're looking for a little bit more convenience, you can do an outside wood boiler. My dad has one of those, and they're really nice. You can heat up a ton of space. He heats his shop and his house with it. They're outside, so there's no fire risk, and you don't bring all the mess inside your house. You can heat multiple buildings with one boiler. You can use it to heat your water, but they still require electricity, and you still have to cut wood and stoke them up every day. So then we got pellet and corn stoves, which is what I have. And I love this thing. Now, a lot of people who have these burn wood pellets, which are just compressed sawdust pellets like this. But the price of wood pellets also varies a lot by year and location. And since I live in corn country, I burn corn. It is just regular shell-dried corn. That's all it is. You can, and I always have, bought it from local farmers, so I always know that it's my literal neighbor who I'm helping out when I heat my house. And corn, well, it also varies in price. It's still way cheaper than propane or fuel oil. I burn roughly 156-pound bushels of corn per year, and I've paid as low as $3 a bushel and as high as $6 a bushel for it. $300 to $600 to heat a house through a Minnesota winter is cheap. In my opinion, way cheaper than the sweat equity of cutting and splitting wood. And also, what makes it so cool is you still get like the nice fire ambiance like you do with a wood stove, but you can vent it out any wall, so you can put it pretty much anywhere without having to deal with a flue or a chimney. And on the lowest setting, my 90-pound hopper, when it's full, lasts 52 hours. So unlike a wood stove, I can go away for the weekend, and when I get home, this is still running. About 3 hoppers of corn burns down into one of these little bricks, and there's a little basket on the bottom of the corn stove that holds about 6 of those bricks, so I can just take the basket out every couple weeks and dump them outside in the yard. Or if I ever got the motivation to garden, apparently it makes really good fertilizer. The only downsides are you do have to have a dry place to store 6,000 pounds of corn. You do have to physically lug some of that corn around every couple days to refill the stove, and they do require electricity to run, which for me doesn't matter because I do have a generator already for my fish house for out when we're camping or fishing. And even if you didn't have a generator, they do make battery backup systems for these that'll run them for a few days without electricity. Another cool thing is they're pretty environmentally friendly. Burning the corn is net zero because it just sequestered all of the carbon out of the air when it was growing that it releases back into the environment. Obviously, tractors still run on diesel and corn dryers still run on propane, so it's not quite carbon neutral, but it's close, and the ash is good for the environment. And fun bonus fact, the ash works great for melting snow and ice and giving you traction on slippery driveways. Just don't use it on like the sidewalks where you walk, because you'll track it all over the house. Anyway, I'm done boring you guys now about how much I like an appliance. Sorry, I appreciate it if you made it this far, because